As an element, Geo is dead. And I don't mean characters that are Geo are dead or characters that are Geo are bad. After all, look at me. I have one of the most highly invested Noelles you can have in Genshin Impact, with an R5 Stone Thresher. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean to you, but I don't mean that characters that are Geo can't be good in Genshin. I mean that Geo literally as an element is dead. And I don't know why I feel like I'm trying to sell you on something, but with Navia being released, this literally put a nail in the coffin, so to speak, on my thoughts on the element of Geo and what it can do and what it suffers from in Genshin Impact. There's so many things that we need to talk about in this video that we're gonna have to discuss down in the comment section below. I want to know your thoughts about the element of Geo. Back in 2020 when Genshin was released, if you saw any ads for the game, whether it was a mobile ad or a YouTube ad or a Twitch ad, it was sold to you as the elemental combat game, the elemental reaction game. And this has only been improved on in so many aspects. There's some minor tweaks every once in a while. Sumeru had a big update adding the element of Dendro to the game, which reacts with so many different elements, almost all of them in fact. We have things like Vaporize and Electrocharge teams that are called Potpourri or Sui. There's so many teams out there that you can make and have a weird name attached to them. I'm looking at you. Shatterbloom and Fridge. Like what? And in fact, most of the top meta teams that you'll see that are clearing the abyss the fastest way possible, or some of the easiest teams that you can gain access to with the lowest amount of gear requirements, are all elemental reaction focused. We don't really see a lot of superconduct teams flying around with their physical resistance down. We're seeing Vaporize teams, Melt teams. Back in 1.0, those were the mainstay thing. And even Animo would get into the game there because Animo could spread elements to other enemies that are afflicted by different elements. We see this now as Taser teams or Super Potpourri, and that's before Dendro even got involved whatsoever. And this is gonna be the first main point against Geo, and Geo as an element being dead. They've literally at MiHoYo never done, or I guess I should say HoYoverse, never done anything at all with the elemental reaction of Geo.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Even when Dendro got added, maybe people were like, we'll get mud, we'll get some weird stuff to go along with Dendro. Nothing at all has been added to their elemental reaction system. We just have Crystallize. And Crystallize, guys, you know it already. It's terrible. I know they have an exclamation point here with various elemental shields. The way that this scales off your EM is abysmal. Even if you try to focus an EM Crystallize build, it's terrible, and it's been this way since launch. The biggest update to the elemental reaction of Geo has been literally Navia. You know this. She likes to suck up the crystallized reaction shards, but she doesn't really do anything with them. The element of Geo and its reactions has literally been diluted and devolved down to an ammo system for a character. That's it. It has nothing to do with the element itself. It's literally just ammo for a character. You could make Navia any element you really wanted, and she'd probably be better. You say, Josh, what would happen with the crystallization reactions? I don't know. She could probably just keep track of how many times you react with a certain element. If she's pyro, she can keep track of how many pyro reactions you do. If she's hydro, she can keep track of how many hydro reactions you do. She doesn't really care to be Geo at all. And not only that, but Geo also has some big downsides as an element. If you're trying to run a freeze team, you want to keep your Geo characters far away from there, because even though it doesn't say it anywhere in the game whatsoever, you can break freeze just with Geo attacks. Even someone like Ningguang, a Catalyst character who shouldn't normally be able to interact with freeze and break it, can break and shatter frozen enemies just because they're Geo. So for an elemental combat reaction system, Geo just doesn't have a place as an element as far as reactions go. But that's not even the thing I hate the most about Geo. The thing I hate the most about Geo as an element is the Geo construct system. Now, if you don't know what a Geo construct is, it's defined in the game basically as a Geo character who can summon something. The one you're probably most familiar with is the good old pillar from Zhongli. And Zhongli's thing, you like it, it stays there. It's got a lot of HP because, well, it is scaling off of the character's health, and Zhongli happens to be an HP scaling character. Someone like Ningguang, who's an attack scaling character who has an HP scaling system on her Geo construct, is just wild to me. It's just dumb. 77% of her HP. That's cool. That means you're summoning a Geo construct with, I don't know, like 8,000 health, 7,000 health in some circumstances, even lower than that if she's not max level. You're not building health on your Ningguang to make her shield block 1 extra hit or 2 extra hits, maybe, at the sacrifice of all of her damage. Not now, not in 2023, going into 2024. I don't understand why a lot of these Geo constructs on these non-HP scaling characters don't scale with the stat you're supposed to be building them for. Why doesn't Jade Screen's HP scale off her attack? But the inherited HP system of Geo constructs isn't even its biggest downside. If your enemy is a little too big, it just instantly blows up, whether it's going to be Ningguang's or Zhongli's pillar, or whether or not you're trying to use Albedo flower. There's so many enemies in Genshin now that just will absolutely destroy any of your Geo constructs when you want to put them down. You have to put them literally barely away, and you can see Albedo's pillar just got blown up instantaneously. Even if you try to put it over to the side, you try to do something cool, it's why do I have to work so hard for this to work correctly? You also try to stack them, it doesn't work. These Geo constructs are buggy, and they haven't gotten any quality of life update, whether it's enemies being able to just walk on them with their toe or their tail or their big booties and blow them up, or if they scale with the wrong stat. Geo constructs are just awful, and it's an inherent flaw in the Geo system. Oh, and this is a more of an Albedo thing for me, but I don't feel like it should take me like this long to activate the flower when you step on it. It should just yeet you up into the sky. Oh, thank you. Thank you for blowing it up. Awesome. Case in point, I guess. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is that Geo as an element, or at least the characters of Geo, don't really have any sort of consistency, especially now with Navia being released after a long 2 years since Arataki Ito, who, honestly, real quick tidbit, Arataki Ito over here, guess what? He was just sort of a redesign of another 4-star. So we hadn't really gotten anyone since Albedo. We had to wait a long time for Arataki Ito, and Arataki Ito, I'll say it right now, is a copy and pasta. You swap Noelle's healing out, you swap her shield out, you give Arataki Ito the little guy, the little ox man.
Wait a minute, who are you?
But he's got the same sort of burst, right? You burst up, you do it, you infuse yourself with Geo, you do a bunch of damage, you're a Claymore character, literally just a more offensive 5-star version of Noelle. But at least when Arataki Ito was released, they came out with Goro, and we saw some sort of synergy, inherent synergy within the Geo characters. We had big shields and barriers. We had characters like Arataki Ito and Noelle who wanted defense and would scale off their defense into an attack ratio. We had characters like Albedo who also scaled off of defense. There were more characters who scaled in some way off of defense than there were off of anything else. We had Zhongli for an HP scaler, and then we had access to Ningguang as an attack scaling Geo character. We also then got Arataki Ito, like we just talked about, and then some more Geo-specific character buffers. We had someone like Yunjin get released as a 4-star character, who isn't technically just a Geo buffing character, but a lot of Geo characters, namely Noelle, Arataki Ito, Ningguang, they can do a lot of damage with their normal and charged attacks. And normal attacks on characters like even Ningguang, because she shoots 2 rocks, gets huge buffs out of Cliff Breaker's banner. So you can utilize Yunjin as a character to buff up some of the weird aspects of these normal attack focused Geo characters. That was cool. But at least it seemed like we were getting some sort of synergy within the Geo team. But all that got thrown out the window because Navia was released, which for the first time since literally Ningguang, a 4-star launch release character, we got an attack scaling, a direct attack scaling Geo character. They made Navia as a character that, even though she was Geo and doesn't directly interact with other elements, forced her in as a damage dealer. And you can see that they knew about this and how they designed her kit with her awesome sunglasses on, obviously. But no, you're gonna run Navia. You've seen the teams with one other Geo character, usually Zhongli. Why? You get Geo Resonance for resistant shred, because it's impossible to resistant shred outside of Zhongli in Geo Resonance for the Geo Element. There's no Viridescent Venom set coming to save you. And then what else did they expect you to do? Run it in a mono Geo team? We're not even talking about the crystallized reaction. No, you can go ahead and look up Mutual Assistance Network. They literally give you an incentive to build her with Pyro, Electro, or Cryo, or Hydro characters. It's sort of an incentive thing as a game design thing. They want to tell you to use 2 non-Geo characters because this is how we designed the character to work. They want you to use her with Bennett, use her with Yelan, use her with Farina, use her with Fischl, use her with Beto, use her with Layla, use her with Ganyu if you want. Literally make sure that you don't stack too many Geo characters, because Geo as an element now is scattered everywhere. We don't have a Geo character to buff up attack scaling Geo characters. We have Goro for defense buffage. We have Yunjin to buff normal attacks with her added damage, of which, yeah, you can do a little bit of them with Navia every 4 seconds due to her amazing passive that after you elemental skill, you get 4 seconds of infusion, and you can do some nice damage that way, but you're not going to use all of the Yunjin stacks. Navia is not really built to be used that way. They basically want you to slam her with Albedo, which I hate Albedo, and I have a C6 Albedo, or Zhongli, and then throw 2 other buffers in there. And they actually do a good job in the trial here. Zhongling is an amazing 4-star pyro character to run with her off-field pyro application, and the Pyronado is another off-field pyro application, but also can snapshot the Bennett buff. So you just end up dropping all your Zhongling stuff during the Bennett buff, ride it all the town, swap over your Navia, drop all of her stuff too, and then meanwhile you'd have Albedo's flower out there, or Zhongli's pillar pulsing away, generating some passive crystallization reaction crystals for you. You can drop everything down during your Bennett buff. Oh, the point being that this is the literal total and opposite direction of how they were designing Geo characters before Navia. They were going towards using multiple Geo characters to get as many buffs to the Geo character archetype as possible. Navia doesn't work with any of that. And don't even get me started on the new Geo set. Oh, don't. All right, let's do it. Arguably should only ever be farmed up for literally Navia, as well as Ningguang, a launch character, because she's the only attack scaling character that's Geo outside of Navia. And I mean a direct, I don't want to see all the Noel and the Arataki Ito scale off attack too. Yeah, sure, I get it, but you get far more. You're not a child. I don't have to explain it to you. You know that it's better to put defense on them, because you gain like 135% or more of your defense to your attack, and your defense base on even someone like Noel. Like, look at this. Even if you take the Red Horn Stone Thresher off, 542 base attack. No, we'll swap that for everyone's favorite, Wolf's Gravestone, 608 base attack. We'll swap that in. So the new Geo set's literally for a launch character as a 4-star who no one really plays that much. I play her, all right? I know you probably play her out there too, high five. But outside of that, like the brand new character, there's an artifact set you can farm up literally for 2 characters in the game. Literally, there's 2 characters. So Zhongli users, we don't count you as Geo mains out there. You can use Zhongli in your mono Geo party, that's fine, all right, calm down. But those of us who are using Ningguang, Albedo, bless your soul if you still are, right? Arataki Ito, Noel, listen, they have the data. They see like, okay, no one really uses these characters, but people are still 36-star in the Abyss. They're fine. People are doing all this stuff. They're fine. We're not going to buff characters. They're fine. They don't need anything done with the elemental reaction system, because we can't do what we're doing now and then just give them more stuff. We're not getting a Dendro Geo reaction for Mud that lowers resistance to Geodim. We're not even gonna get anything small like that, because they've shown time and time again, especially with Navia now, that they're not working within the confinements of the Geo system. They're working around the confinements of the Geo system. If you didn't understand that, let me break that down for you. They're literally designing Geo characters in the ways that they need to design them, because they know Geo can't interact with other elements. And so as far as an element goes, I'm gonna have to say and succeed that Geo as an element is dead. But more or less just the element itself is just kind of dead. It has got nowhere to go, and it's never been tried to be buffed or changed in any real meaningful way. If that's how it's going to be, I guess that's how it's going to be.
It is what it is.
Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
It is what it is.